Here's part two of the Infertility Solutions podcast. So let's dig into some natural solutions. One of the big things we talked about in the last podcast, if you didn't catch it, is we're looking at some of the major causes. So some of the causes of infertility could be an inaccurate cycle. It could be dysbiosis in the gut. It could be from too much stress. We find that stress is a big impediment for getting your body healthy to conceive and have a baby. We talked about how we treat fertility in our country and what's going on with the worldwide fertility rate. And what we're finding is that, the forecast is showing that we're having less and less babies, and there's more and more people becoming infertile. And in fact, the cost of using conventional fertility routes is very expensive. I mean, if you go the egg donation route, you're looking at $25,000 to $30,000. IVF therapy, most couples average 2 or 3 rounds of IVF before they actually have a baby, and each round is anywhere from 10 to 18,000. In fact, in Salt Lake City, the average cost is about 13,200. The place that you need to go is Washington, D.C. Amazing city if you haven't been there. Yeah, there's some reasons why. From an anatomical and physiological perspective, it could be poor egg quality, poor cervical mucus, irregular ovulation, miscarriages, ovarian cysts, thrush from a dysbiosis. With men, it can be abnormal sperm, so the sperm count can be decreased. The tail in the sperm can be twisted. You can also have poor motility where the sperm are not swimming in the right direction. What affects the sperm is going to be heat or pressure to the scrotum. Alcohol, marijuana, caffeine, that can all do it. Environmental toxins, even over-the-counter drugs. Some of the plasticizers, the BPA and BPB, can affect the sperm count. And then the biggest thing, men, is don't put the laptop on your lap. And if you do, get one of those EMF blockers and then get your cell phone out of your pocket. Those are going to be really important things for conception. So we talked about the thyroid imbalances. Hypothyroidism can have a big impact on the mother because you'll have a lack of sex hormone, a lack of growth hormone, and a lot of this goes misdiagnosed. So one of the best things you can do right now is just look at your tongue in the mirror. And do you have a swollen tongue? Is there scallops on the side? Do you have cracks in the middle? A normal tongue is going to look like a baby's tongue and can reveal a lot to us about what's going on in your overall health. Are you losing hair? Are you tired and sluggish a lot? Are you depressed? All these issues, if you're trying to conceive, need to be taken care of in advance because I met with a younger couple just yesterday, and I told them, I said, look, for the next 3 months, we need to focus on getting both of you healthy before we even think about having a baby. And they didn't really like that because they really want to just have a baby. But I tried to explain to them, and I think we really came around to an agreement here, but I tried to explain to them that if you have a baby and you're sick, you put your life in jeopardy, you put the baby's life in jeopardy, and then you already have burned out all your reserves. And so you have a baby 9 months from now, and it's going to be very difficult just to take care of the baby. They're hard. Kids are not without some type of stress. So we want to look at your labs in a new way. We want to make sure we're functionally looking at those labs, making sure your TSH, the ideal place for you pregnant ladies or ladies trying to conceive, is right around 1.8 to 2.4, somewhere in that range. Seems to give us a very good parameter. We want to look at your cortisol levels because cortisol can have a massive impact on all the hormones downstream. We want to look at your A1C and your glucose levels. A1C, the ideal range is going to be 4.9 to about 5.4. And if you think you crave sugar now, wait till you get pregnant and you haven't fixed your insulin resistance, you're going to eat all the sugar in your house. So make sure you're looking at that before conception. Okay, so let's jump into some ways that we help people conceive. I mean, we order all the correct tests. We give you lifestyle coaching. We use a book written by Dave Asprey and his wife. Dave Asprey is the bulletproof diet guy. He's bulletproof coffee. That's his thing. But we love it in our clinic. And he wrote a book called The Better Baby Book with his wife, who happens to be a physician. And so one of the books we give our wellness members who are coming for infertility is the Better Baby Book, because it sheds light on the toxins in the environment and our food, the mycotoxins in our house if you've got mold or any kind of leaks, and showing how if you can reverse a lot of the environmental toxicity before you have your baby, if you can get rid of the beds or let your bed off gas if you've got a new bed. If you get a crib, here's the right way to do it, because cribs can be incredibly toxic, and kids are a lot more susceptible to toxins in the environment than even adults are. So the Better Baby Book, I'd recommend it to everybody. It will also show you some ways of being more mindful and decreasing your stress, because that has a major impact on your cortisol levels. Eating fermented foods, making sure your probiotics are the right quality, the right brand, that will all help. So the other thing that we want to look at is acupuncture, because some of you may need treatments. And we found not only is acupuncture incredibly relaxing, it's one of my favorite things on the planet. When I very first got acupuncture, my hands were all sweaty, I was all nervous. I went to Tao Tan. He's a Chinese doctor, and Sandy is where he was at the time. He's actually retired about 6 years ago, but he was my very first teacher, my very first exposure to the medicine. Dr. Bauman, one of my teachers at the U, told me about Tao Tan. So I went down there and saw him, and I was so nervous, and didn't hurt at all. It was actually very pleasant. As I was driving away from his clinic, I felt this warmth in my stomach that kind of made me smile. And I realized that there was something very powerful to the medicine. And so it allowed me to dig in deeper, and to now, I've worked on at least 25,000 people. And I'm honored to have that opportunity, because I know that I've helped people with acupuncture probably more than anything else. And so with infertility, for those of you who are looking for solutions, you need to find an acupuncturist who can help you treat your infertility. And it cannot be just acupuncture alone, but there are some studies that even show that if you just use acupuncture alone, you're going to get help. So here's a recent study. It was published in Fertility and Sterility, and it's shown just how effective acupuncture is. It actually led to significant increases in the number of normal sperm, and equally significant reductions in structural defects. So what they did is they took a study of 28 men who were diagnosed with infertility, and they received acupuncture twice a week over a period of 5 weeks. So just 1 month, which is a very short time period. Semen samples were collected from each man after a 3-day period of sexual abstinence. 2 samples were collected from each patient. One was obtained the day before treatment began, the other after the last acupuncture treatment. Samples from the treatment group were then randomized with semen samples from 12 untreated control patients and analyzed, and this is what they found. Compared to the control group, the ability of semen to move increased significantly in the samples of the men receiving acupuncture. The number and percentage of healthy sperm also increased dramatically in the acupuncture patients. So pretty amazing. So you men out there, you may need to get some acupuncture. And even if everything looks good, looks healthy, your sperm can change pretty dramatically. I mean, you get in an airplane, you're flying all over, that is going to have an impact on your sperm and on the way that your sperm can swim. So here's another study with in vitro therapy. So for those of you who, maybe your fallopian tubes are blocked, you've had a history of, endometriosis, maybe you've got some cysts, and there's some physical abnormalities that have prevented you from conceiving. and you're undergoing IVF, well, get into the clinic as soon as you possibly can. Or for those of you, I know we have listeners all throughout the country, um, and even outside of the country. Hey, you Londoners, thanks for your emails, by the way. But the studies are showing with IVF that you can dramatically improve your pregnancy success. So here's a study, once again, this is from Fertility and Sterility. This was over a decade ago, but they conducted a study of 160 women, all of whom had undergone an average of 2 previous in vitro fertilization cycles. Their average age was 32. Half of the women received 25-minute acupuncture treatments before and after the embryo transfer. The control group did not receive any acupuncture. So this is just 2 acupuncture treatments that were given to these women. And look at these results. According to the results, only 26.3% of the women in the control group became pregnant. So that's the group that did not do the acupuncture. On their 3rd try with in vitro, only 26% became pregnant, while 42.5% of the women who received acupuncture became pregnant. So if you look at the acupuncture group, there was a 62% increase in fertility rate with just 2 treatments. And we don't ever recommend just 2 treatments, but it's phenomenal if you look at those studies. So here's Sarah. She said, I came to, one of our patients, she said, I came to an acupuncturist for treatment of infertility and unstable emotions. I knew I needed a quick turnaround and was willing to follow whatever advice was given me. Keeping a positive mind and attitude about the process, I saw a complete transformation of myself, and in 3 short months, not only am I now pregnant, I have more energy and am happy each day. My husband is thrilled with my progress. Acupuncture can make a difference. So, yeah, they actually have a baby now. All right, so missing pieces. We know acupuncture can be a huge component of that. A lot of people are wondering how it works. With acupuncture, it works by stimulating more blood circulation in your body. Every point that is placed into your body relates to a particular organ or gland. So if I put an acupuncture needle in your forearm, for example, that will have a direct impact on your large intestine. Maybe I'd put an acupuncture needle about 3 inches above your medial malleolus, right behind your tibia, and that is a very strong point for fertility and for regulating all of the hormones in your body. Men, it would depend on what's going on, but I may go 4 inches above your medial malleolus and put a needle there. We may do points to help stimulate, better uterine flow, better blood circulation to the sexual organs. We'll do points for the hypothalamus, the pituitary, so that you have better connection from the control glands. Acupuncture has the ability to regulate your immune system, but it also stimulates a large quantity of blood circulation. But what we found is when acupuncture is the most successful is when we're also working at resolving all the other symptoms in the body and all the other potential causes. So if you look at acupuncture, it's a phenomenal medicine. Even used alone, as you could see in the studies, we have great results with it. But if you want the results to be permanent, and if you also want those results to be more comprehensive and build you a better level of reserves, then there's a few things we want to do for you. One of those is we want to support the detoxification and enzyme pathway. So that means we may use something like glutathione for your phase 1 detoxification. We may use activated charcoal for phase 2 in your liver. We'll do some tests to understand if your stomach is secreting enough enzymes in your pancreas. Pancreatic enzymes are sufficient. That can be a key. If you are already struggling with like bloating perhaps, or you get some acid reflux, and then you get pregnant, those symptoms just get worse. They become incredibly exacerbated. So start drinking a little bit of apple cider vinegar with your meals. Just put apple cider vinegar in water, and that can help regulate a lot of these enzyme pathways. Look at your MTHFR and COMT. Do some genetic testing, and we're going to have an entire podcast on this coming up. I just got I did a bunch of genetic testing, and I did not find good news. The only good news I found is that I still feel pretty darn good. considering my genetic profile, which is really exciting because that's where I know I can help any of you. Okay, so we want to identify food sensitivities. We do a simple hair analysis. We may do blood. We'll identify hormonal imbalances. That's going to be key. Cortisol and thyroid hormones being some of the primary hormones we'll look at. We want to see if you've got a yeast or a fungus or parasite overgrowth. That's where we do stool testing. And then we can start resolving the gut dysbiosis. We remove the organisms that are no longer helpful, and then we reinoculate your intestines with the right material, the right life, so that your jungle can be flourishing. We want to look at vitamin deficiencies because that's huge. I mean, we all know that if you have a folic acid deficiency, that's why so many kids are stillborn with cleft palates. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at all the vitamins and minerals in your body. If you have a magnesium deficiency, that could be one of the reasons why you're craving so much sugar for you ladies who are already pregnant. If you have a metallic taste in your mouth, you might be zinc deficient or have yeast overgrowth. So look at your fingernails. Do you have white spots on your fingernails? Do you have rigid lines? I've seen some of my patients with literally they have black streaks down their nails because of the amount of mercury and lead overload. And heavy metals are best to be detoxed before you get pregnant. We don't want to do any massive detoxifications with our patients when they're pregnant because that will all disrupt the fetus and put too much stress on the neurological system. But babies who are exposed to lots of either drugs or heavy metal exposure, pesticide exposure in the womb are born with they're more likely to be born with birth defects, with learning disabilities, and with a decrease in overall development. So make sure you're cleaning up your body on all these levels. This is how you can have success. You want to get rid of any excess inflammation. So if you have low back pain, hip pain, neck pain, think about how that would feel if you add 30 to 50 pounds onto your body. It puts a lot more strain on those areas that are already aggravated. My patients who have a little bit of sciatica who get pregnant, they have a lot. And so make sure that you're correcting all the tissue damage that you've got from a structural perspective. You also want to maybe visit a chiropractor, get things opened up in your spine, especially throughout the pregnancy. Is acupuncture safe during pregnancy? Absolutely. Is chiropractic care? Absolutely. So make sure you're getting in for regular visits. Get a massage. Take time for yourself. My teacher used to say, watch beautiful movies with beautiful scenery. Very important. And then you want to eliminate any leaky gut and restore the intestinal barriers. So one of the things we look at is what are the healthy bacteria? And we want to look at some of the major families because if you've got Campylobacter, Enterococcus, C. diff, Clostridium difficile, that can be a huge impediment. That can be very dangerous to the growth of your baby, but also to your overall health. So we want to look at those things. Testing if you have leaky gut. That's where a test where we look at lipopolysaccharides and zonulin can be key. Here's another success story. About 2.5 months ago, I was talking to my friend and coworker about this dizziness I was experiencing in the past few months. She told me she'd been seeing an acupuncturist for a problem, and she had been having, and she was very excited about the results. So I decided it couldn't hurt since every other doctor I went to couldn't figure it out. Since then, about 2.5 months have passed, and I can't believe the results. Yay, no more dizziness, and I am pregnant. My husband and I couldn't be more excited. Almost a year ago, I had a miscarriage. Acupuncture really helped, and I couldn't feel better. And so thank you for making my acupuncture experience so wonderful. That's from Katie. One of my favorite stories is I went into a family party, and I'd been working with my cousin's wife on fertility. And we've been working with her for about 3 months, and she was very compliant. We figured out a lot of things that were going on, and she came in and she said, "Hey, Regan, you got me pregnant." And the whole room everyone goes quiet and looks at me. And I'm like, no, 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 not like that. So yeah, um, it's super exciting because we've seen so many cool success stories. And like I mentioned in my last podcast, I think having a family, having babies is one of the coolest things you can do in your life. And so get some help. I mean, there are cool solutions out there, so many things that you can do. If you plug in, if you're looking for functional medicine practitioners or acupuncturists to help you in your journey, reach out to me. You can email me, regan@gowellness.com. You can also just talk to Google and find some practitioners, ask around, because one of the first things you're going to need to do is you're going to need an extensive history and evaluation. And that's going to help uncover a lot of the nature of the problem. And then you'll figure out what tests need to be ordered. So one of the first things that we'll do is look at your tongue, and we'll see what's going on from a tongue perspective. If we can understand what's going on in that dynamic, then we can start to direct you into what labs would be the most appropriate for you, so that we're not running everything under the sun. So I hope this has been helpful. Our next podcast is still going to be, we're going to talk about MTHFR soon, but we're going to talk about some foods, some natural foods for fertility. So stick around for that. We'll talk about herbal medicine, about lifestyle rejuvenation, show you a little more on the tongue diagnosis, and get you ready to have an awesome baby. So thanks so much for joining us, and I love all your comments and feedback, so feel free to reach out to me. Once again, Regan@gowellness.com, and have an amazing day and a great time getting pregnant.